Hello everyone, welcome to yet another session of the daily news analysis by SRIRAM'S IAS, where we take up the important articles featuring in the Hindu newspaper and break them down for our understanding from the examination point of view. So let's start today's discussion by taking the important articles from the newspaper. The important articles which we've taken up from the newspaper are on our screens, and let's take up the first article for the day. The first article now which appears in the newspaper reads AlphaFold, a tour de force in science. Now this is a very important article, especially from our examination perspective, from the perspective of science and technology, which we study in GS3. Now this is a topic pertaining to the subject of structural biology, and a big development has happened, which is the AlphaFold. Now what is this AlphaFold? What does it do? What is the significance of this new development? We'll take a look at that, and we'll extract important points which will be important from us for us from the examination point of view. So what is AlphaFold? AlphaFold is the new protein identification, protein structure identification tool developed by the DeepMind, which is a company which was acquired by Google. So we can say that this has a connection with the with Google as a company, and the parent company which is designed is DeepMind. So it is a artificial intelligence protein identification structure tool, which means that it is a computer machine which uses artificial intelligence to identify protein structures. That is why this invention pertains to the field of structural biology. So how is this important? Because identification of protein structures is a very important aspect when we want to study human diseases, other diseases. As we now know that when COVID arrived, the genome sequencing of the COVID virus was done. So in this way, if one wants to study any cell, so proteins become the business end of these cells. What do we mean by that? That they are those structures in the atom which make the muscular mass of the protein. So the protein are the powerhouse or which run the cell. That is why understanding the proteins is very important. So this tool that has been developed by the company DeepMind, which belongs to Google, it has invented an artificial intelligence based tool which will take up various samples of proteins and make their structures. It will give their structures and identify their protein structures. So that is the in just the tool that and the function that this tool is doing. So it is an artificial intelligence program developed by Google's DeepMind, which performs predictions of protein structure. And what is the length and breadth of it? It is designed as a deep learning system that is built to predict folded protein structures to the width of an atom. So which means that this is important in understanding human diseases. And it's not that this kind of protein identification mechanisms was not going on earlier. It was going on using different methods, but they used to take a lot of years, and this AlphaFold will now be able to do it in much less time. So how does it do it? How does an AI intelligence tool take up information and give out the predicted protein structures of it? So it is based on the methods of training, learning, retraining and relearning. What does this mean? That there is a already available database of protein structures, right, which the scientists have found out, and this database is fed into this tool one by one protein structure at a time, and then that particular AI mechanism will read that protein structure and then make a 3D model of that protein structure. And similarly, various iterations of this input and processing and output will go on, and this went on for 1,70,000 proteins. So the protein database had 1,70,000 protein structures which were fed into this AlphaFold to identify and one by one it read all of this 1,70,000 protein structures and can now identify it. Now we should understand that this is a huge development, because the identification of these protein structures and the AlphaFold able to replicate them has great significance in terms of understanding of the human diseases. And this 1,70,000 proteins is as big as 25 terabytes. So we can imagine the strength and the extent of processing that this AI based tool has done. So how does it do it? As we saw, the first step uses the available structures of these proteins in the protein data bank to train the computer model. Then these protein data sets are fed into the AlphaFold, they read it and then they produce it. And it has now predicted the structures of the entire 214 million unique protein sequences deposited in this universal protein resource, or which is known as UniProt database, which is a 25 terabyte big database. Right, so this is the development which is there with respect to the AlphaFold. And from the examination point of view, what becomes important for us is what kind of a tool is it. The question can simply mention what is AlphaFold, who developed it. So DeepMind from Google developed it, right? And what are the various characteristics of the AlphaFold program. And so then let's look at some important points with respect to proteins, as to why is it interested in analyzing the structures of protein itself. So as I said, proteins function as the business end of biology, which means that they are the building blocks of the cell. They are the ones which give power, which function in the cell. It's a macronutrient that is essential to building the muscle mass, and it is commonly found in animal products, though is also present in other sources such as nuts and legumes. This is about the presence of protein. It is composed of amino acids. So proteins are in turn made of amino acids, which are organic compounds made of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen and sulfur. Amino acids are the building blocks of the proteins, and proteins are the building blocks of the muscle mass. And the human body consists of around 100 trillion cells. Each cell has thousands of different proteins. In order to understand this human body and the anatomy of human diseases, the identification and mapping of these protein structures is important, and this is where the importance of AlphaFold comes into picture. So with this, we move on to the next article for the day. Now the next article which appears in the newspaper reads, Lumpy skin disease spreads to 25,000 bovines in Rajasthan. Now this particular article talks about the deadly animal disease known as the lumpy skin disease, which is spread in the states of Rajasthan, also in Gujarat. So it has affected 25,000 cattle in Rajasthan and killed around 1,200 animals in the state in the past few weeks. So from the examination point of view, what becomes important for us is to know what is the lumpy skin disease and its important pointers. So let's take a look at it. What is the lumpy skin disease? So the lumpy skin disease is basically a viral disease. It is caused by infection of cattle or water buffalo with the pox virus lumpy skin disease virus, or which is shortly known as LSDV. So the first point to remember is that it is a viral disease which is contracted by the cattle, right? So the infection of cattle and other animals such as the water buffalo, they contract this disease. And according to the FAO, the mortality rate is less than 10%. So as we can see, 25,000 cattle have been affected and 1,000 have died. So the fatality rate is around 10% as given by the Food and Agriculture Organization. It was first seen as an epidemic in Zambia, which is in Africa, in 1929. And initially it was thought to be the result of either poisoning or hypersensitivity to insect bites. But earlier it was identified that, that it's a viral disease caused by a particular virus. So how is it transmitted? These viruses are carried by some vectors. Now who are vectors? Those animals who carry the disease spreading pathogen, and it does not affect them, but they transmit this pathogen to other people. These are known as vectors. So mosquitoes are vectors for diseases such as dengue, malaria. Houseflies are vectors for diseases such as cholera. So these kind of vectors are also responsible for spreading the lumpy skin disease virus, and they spread between animals by biting insects such as the mosquitoes and biting flies. So they are the ones who will bite the cattle and transmit this virus to the cattle. Then with respect to what are the symptoms, what happens in this lumpy skin disease? So it primarily consists of fever. The animal will suffer fever, fluid excretion from eyes, the eyes will water or fluid will excrete and from the nose, and dribbling of saliva from the mouth and blisters on the body. These are the physical attributions of the lumpy skin disease, and with this the animal stops eating and faces problems with chewing or eating, resulting in reduced milk production. So this happens, and whenever the health of the cattle will deteriorate, it will have major ramifications in the economy of in the agricultural economy as well. This is what is happening in Rajasthan, where due to such large amounts of cattle falling ill, the milk production has gone down, and it has impacted the dairy economy in the state of Rajasthan as well as in Gujarat. So this is what are the symptoms of the disease. And what about the prevention and treatment? Is there any vaccine with respect to this disease? So vaccination against these diseases covered under the Livestock Health and Disease Control Program of India. And there is no specific antiviral drugs available for the treatment of lumpy skin disease. The only treatment available is supportive care of the cattle, and this can include treatment of skin lesions, that is the blisters that appear on the skin, using wound care sprays, and the use of antibiotics to prevent secondary skin infections and pneumonia. And anti-inflammatory painkillers can be used to keep up the appetite of affected animals. So which means that there is no specific medicine that has been found out yet to treat lumpy skin disease, and various symptoms that the cattle show are to be treated separately is what the treatment is going on right now. That is why this needs to be stepped up, and proper care needs to be taken for the cattle, because this does not have major ramifications on the health of the cattle, but also on the dairy economy and other aspects for which the cattle is very important part of. So therefore, this is a very important disease, and the important pointers are there for us to know about this one. So with this, let's move on to our next article for the day. The next article which now appears on the screen reads, Bill for Gati Shakti University introduced in Lok Sabha. Now this is an article pertaining to the amendment bill which is now being introduced in the Lok Sabha. What is that bill? It is the Central Universities Amendment Bill, and it seeks to replace the National Rail and Transport Institute. This is the National Rail and Transport Institute, which is in Vadodara, Gujarat, and convert it into a Gati Shakti University. What does this mean? That they want to increase the ambit of this university, which is the Transport and Rail University, into a larger ambit, and to do that, a bill has been introduced in the parliament so that this particular institute will then get a statutory recognition. So we'll understand what is the bill about, and what is the importance of upgrading this Gati Shakti University. So the National Rail and Transportation Institute is being upgraded as the Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya. It will be now known as Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya. A deemed to be university will be upgraded to a central university, right? So it will get a central university tag when it will get a statutory recognition under the Act, and to do the same, a bill has been introduced in the Parliament, namely the Central Universities Amendment Bill 2022, to amend the Central Universities Act of 2009 for setting up of the Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya. And what would this amendment do? It would help in converting the National Rail and Transportation Institute, a deemed to be university, which is currently a deemed to be university, into Gati Shakti Vidyalaya, a Vishwavidyalaya, into a central university. So an upgradation of the status will take place, and the NRTI, which currently offers BSc in Transportation Technology, BBA in Transportation Management and courses, and MSc in Railway System Engineering and Integration. So this institute, which is currently offering courses with respect to transportation and railways, by converting it into a central university, the government wants to improve the scope of this particular university. As we know, the relevance of transportation and the related infrastructure is gaining fast momentum in the country, and therefore we need skilled workers and technicians in this field. So that is why this institute is being upgraded to take care of the training personnel required in this sector, and the body which would be funding and managing this institute would be the Ministry of Railways. It would be funding and administering this university. Now, about this Vishwavidyalaya. The Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya is envisioned to be a key enabler for expanding the transportation sector, which is strategically critical for India's economic growth and development. That is what we saw. This sector is gaining increasing importance, and to train the personnel in this sector is of utmost importance for the country right now, and it requires a stable supply of highly trained personnel and state-of-the-art technology. And the scope of the university will extend beyond the railways to cover the entire transport sector. So this is also which has been upgraded. The restrictive courses which were there up until now, they have been expanded from railways to cover the entire transport sector. So roadways, waterways, airways, all of this would be covered in this university to support its ambitious growth and modernization. So this has been done, and why this becomes important, because a bill has been introduced in the parliament and questions can be asked on the which body is handling it and under which ministry this comes in. So this was important from the examination point of view, and with this let's move on to our next article for the day. The next article which now appears on the screen reads, African swine fever reported in Kannur. Now, this is another deadly disease that has struck in the country, that is the African swine fever, which has struck now in the state of Kerala. Earlier, in the Wayanad district of Kerala, the African swine fever was found in some pigs. This is generally found, swine meaning pig. So this is generally found in pigs. It was found, and consequent to that, a lot of pigs were killed as well, right? And due to that, it was thought that this would stop it. But recently now in Kannur, the cases of African swine fever is also rising, which is again cause a lot of panic, because again the pigs and the meat that is derived from them, that what we call pork, is also a major industry in Kerala, which is why the killing and the deterioration of pigs due to African swine fever has become a major problem. So from the examination point of view, we'll study about the important pointers related to African swine fever. So what is African swine fever? It is a highly contagious and fatal animal disease. So it's a very deadly disease which is contagious as well and fatal as well, that infects and leads to an acute form of hemorrhagic fever and in domestic and wild pigs. So it is a disease which spreads in pigs and highly contagious and fatal. Other manifestations of the disease include high fever, depression, anorexia, loss of appetite, hemorrhages in the skin, vomiting and diarrhea, among others. It was first detected in Africa in the 1920s, and historically outbreaks have been reported in Africa and parts of Europe, South America and the Caribbean. But more recently, it is since 2007, the disease has been reported in multiple countries across Africa, Asia and Europe in both domestic and wild pigs. The mortality is close to 100%, right? Fatal disease. So most chances are that if the pigs get this disease, they're going to die. That is why the fatality is almost 100%, and since the fever has no cure, only way to stop the spread is by culling the animals. The forceful killing of the animal to prevent the spread of the diseases is known as culling of the animals. So that is the only step that remains to be done, and which is what the Kerala government is also doing to prevent this spread of African swine flu virus, African swine fever. And it is not a threat to human beings. So even if it is highly contagious and fatal, the good thing for humans is that it does not spread from the pigs to humans. So that is why the transmission from animal to human is not being seen right now. So therefore, it is not a threat to human beings, since it only spreads from animal to other animals. So these are the important points related to the African swine fever, which can be asked in the examination. So we complete today's important articles, and we'll meet again tomorrow with the important articles from tomorrow's newspaper. Thank you.